This is the February Community of Practice meeting of MassEnergize. It's really a pleasure to see so many people here tonight. We do have a great lineup of speakers and some sharing. But also, as always, we want to make sure that there's time for everybody to get a chance, or those people who would like to share. So if you do have updates from your community, if you do have things you want to ask or or things you want to share, we will certainly make time for that as well. But I just want to say my name is Nathan Scott. I'm the Executive Director of MassEnergize, and we are really pleased to have you all here tonight. So I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Megan, who's going to share a little bit about our upcoming conference and have a few other announcements. So Megan.
Hi, everybody. I am very excited about our conference coming up on April 30th. Hope you can attend at Bentley University. We've got a great lineup coming, and as I was explaining to somebody yesterday, we have about 25 ideas for breakout sessions and 14 slots. So it's really going to be jam-packed, and we're really, really excited about it. And we're getting close to getting details so that we can flesh out the schedule and put it on our website. As we get ready for that, we're doing a bit of looking for sponsors. As you know, the conference is fairly inexpensive for anybody who's a grassroots member of the community. And in order to make that happen, we need some sponsorships. If you had any ideas of somebody who might be interested in sponsoring, that would be great to know. And then we are trying to reach some banks and tell them how compelling we think it would be for them to sponsor. If anybody has a bank in their community that they think would be a good match for supporting MassEnergize, that would be great. And what we're hoping to do is, without having to go to every bank and see what branches are in which town has which branches, we're looking to crowdsource that a little bit. And then the other exciting thing is we plan to have a campaign showcase, as we did last year. And that is, we're looking for 5 or 6 ideas of successful campaigns, or even campaigns that were great and weren't quite successful, to share with the community in our campaign showcase. And that would be sharing a 5 or 6 minute narrative about how things went in your community, and so that everybody could learn from that. And so we're looking again to crowdsource those at the moment. We have a few ideas, but I thought I'd just ask everybody while we have you here. If anybody has ideas, you can put those in the chat, and you can send them to me directly if you want, or to everybody, so we can all have a look at them. Nathan, is there anything else?
I think that's it for the conference. But as I hope most of you have either registered or are planning to register. It is the last day of April, so April 30th. It's a Wednesday. And it's, as Megan said, it's going to be at Bentley University in Waltham. We are trying to figure out access to public transportation. There's a commuter line that comes not far, and so we're trying to seeing if we can organize some shuttle buses. But there is plenty of parking, and there is good EV charging at Bentley as well. So just as you anticipate your visit to the conference. So I think that's it for now. Megan, as far as the conference goes, did you want to introduce Mary or?
Oh, yes. I would like to introduce Mary Pritchard, who is going to talk about the upcoming youth conference. So Mary, I'll let you do all the details. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm head of Andover We Can, which is a local group of volunteers. Last year, we were working with a high school intern, and she had a great idea in terms of engaging youth. She said, let's do a youth sustainability fair. So last year we did our first one, and we had 31 participating groups. Part of those groups were community groups, so it was really more intergenerational, but that's actually good because you want to have that swapping of adults going around to listen and talk to kids who are showcasing their projects. So this is going to be happening on April 26th, which is a Saturday. It's 1 to 3. It's a 2-hour commitment, so it's not long. What we're really hoping for is to get more representation from other towns, youth groups in your town that might be working on something exciting, green teams in the schools. That's one of the things that we're really working on is how do we crack the nut of getting inside the schools with curriculum and activities and building green teams. So we know that when kids are involved, families come, parents come, and that's another great way to be able to get to a larger out of our bubble group of residents. So if you have any groups in your town, please let me know. I can put my contact information in the chat. I will also put our event page, Andover Weekend event page, where you'll find we've just put it up. It's only beginning the number of groups coming on, and all of the high school groups are not there yet. We should have about 15 from our high school alone. So if you have any questions, please let me know and I can be in touch with you later.
Great. Thank you, Mary. And yeah, Mary and the folks at Weekend Andover are doing a great job. I realized before we get into our main speaker tonight, I do want to let people who are new want to offer a special welcome and an invitation to introduce yourself. If you'd like to, if this is your first or even your second time coming to a MassEnergize community of practice gathering, we want to first of all, welcome you, but also offer a chance for you to get to know others and for others to get to know you. So anybody who'd like to, please, you could go off unmute, or you can unmute yourself and just let us know who you are and where you come from. So yeah, Denise.
Hi, yeah, I'm in Northampton. So we are a new group. We don't have our page yet. We're just putting it together. So and trying to come up with a name that's pretty challenging. Yeah, so we're excited to be part of this group, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot.
Yeah, well, a warm welcome to Northampton and Mary. Sorry, Denise. This is a great chance to ask questions, get other people's ideas as you kind of get into learning the ropes of what you're doing with the site and with the larger community here. So, yeah, other people would like to introduce themselves.
So I'll just say hi. I'm, I guess, an old member of MassEnergize. We no longer are in Sherborne. I'm the co-chair of the Energy and Sustainability Committee there. And we've been around for a long time and struggling to figure out how we do the outreach puzzle part. So it's been a few years since I've showed up at a group like this. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, nice to see you, Michael. Welcome. Anybody else?
Hi.
Yeah, please.
I'm Tom Yelton from Sustainable Sudbury. And we just this year joined the plug-in campaign with MassEnergize. We're very happy to be part of that.
Great. Welcome, Tom. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, there will be an opportunity to share updates, share questions later on in the program. So if you didn't get a chance to introduce yourself, you feel free to later on. Okay, well, we do have a special guest tonight. Many of you, or some of you may know, Kit Wu, who's one of the founders of the Laminar Collective. And Kit is going to be sharing a little bit of the work of Laminar Collective. And what has really impressed us is that Kit and his team have gone to great efforts to make heat pumps as accessible as possible. We all know how effective heat pumps are, but they can be financially and for other reasons somewhat inaccessible. And so Kit and his team have taken it upon themselves to do what you're going to hear about, which is making heat pumps a lot more accessible to those of us and to broader communities. So Kit Wu, take it away. And you're muted, Kit.
I am muted. I'm also next to a fairly busy street right now because my team is in Florida for an HVAC trade show. So if it gets a little too loud in the background, let me know. I'll go ahead and mute myself momentarily. Okay, it's good to see everybody here. Denise, in particular, good to see you here. My co-organizer, Hanan, went to UMass Amherst, so I think there's a lot of Northampton area spirit over here. I'm going to go ahead and quickly share my presentation, but I'm also going to go ahead and drop a link so that if you wanted to, you can just follow on your own screen as well. And it might be really useful if the connection cuts out or anything like that. Let's see, sharing the link. All right, just drop the link on the channel. Can somebody click on that and confirm that you have access to it?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and also share my screen. If at any point there's a break or I stop talking for some reason, feel free to shout and let me know. All right, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Awesome, great. So thanks for coming by. I promise this won't be too long. I run a research group over in Cambridge, and one thing that we're trying to do right now is get a really good sense of what's happening in 2025. It's going to be a really dynamic year. I mean, there are tariffs potentially on the horizon, refrigerant change is happening, and simultaneously, the new Mass Save plan is kicking in. So with that all in mind, I thought that it would be good to give you guys some updates about how we're thinking about 2025 and potentially playbooks that you guys can use in your own communities as well. All right, so just diving in, this is a quick picture of some of us on the team. Our mission is to negotiate really good pricing for heat pumps. And I live in Cambridge, most of us live in Cambridge, and that's how we started. Just as a group, researching pricing, sharing that information with neighbors, and then collectively bargaining with contractors to make sure that everybody can save thousands of dollars. We got a community education grant from Mass Save in 2024, and we're sort of getting towards the end of that, but for the time being, our mission is still to publish open research for everybody. So you can sort of see get a sense of who and what cities are signing up here. A lot of people in Somerville, Arlington, Cambridge, the places that you typically expect. But more recently, we've had a lot of people from the Metro West as well. So that's why I think I'm glad to be speaking to you guys all today over here at MassEnergize. Last weekend, surprisingly, we ended up on Wirecutter, so that's pretty cool. I didn't know that we were going to end up on Wirecutter, so this was a pleasant surprise. Every half year, we publish a seasonal market report. And this is one of the primary ways that we do outreach. It's on Reddit, the online forum. And I specifically post on the Boston subreddit a report that basically says, all right, we've spent 2 months talking to contractors, in many cases, trying to get them to quote the same house. And by getting them to quote the same house, we can get a sense of the range of prices that we're seeing, how contractors are feeling about the market, and ultimately, people find this super useful. This is one of the main ways that people find us and end up signing up for Laminar Collective. All right, let's talk about 2025. I have something to say about brands and refrigerants. I have a schedule of a production cutover for one of the brands. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we think we're going to drive down costs in 2025. So here's the fork in the road. And let me just go ahead and quickly share my slide now. Here's the fork in the road. Previously, the refrigerant is 410A. And currently, if you were to try to buy a heat pump right now, you would only be able to purchase 410A refrigerant. Manufacturers can no longer manufacture the 410A equipment, but distributors still have a ton of 410A equipment. Varying amounts, I suppose. It's going to get more spotty going into the next couple of months. The interesting thing is that there's no one refrigerant that the industry has settled on going into the later parts of this year. Some brands are going to R32, and others are going to R454B. And then you have Samsung here in the middle that kind of tried to dip its toes in both, but mostly it's going to be on R32. I don't know the full impact of this yet, but one immediate impact is that contractors might be a little bit more hesitant to install a lot of different brands, simply because they'll have to keep a tank of 2 different tanks of refrigerant in their truck at all times. What does that mean? We'll see how it pans out. Manufacturing timelines. When is the cutover going to be? This is a schedule for Daikin, which along with Mitsubishi is a major brand, as well as Fujitsu and LG. Daikin right now projects that a lot of their cold climate equipment specifically will start to become available sometime around Q3, the summer. That is a very unsatisfying answer for people like us, because I want to know exactly when they're cutting over. But it seems like, for my impression, they're trying to clear out the R410A inventory before they move on to the new stuff. Because you might end up in a situation where if somebody knows that they can get equipment that runs on the new refrigerant, why would they go for the R410A? So the takeaway there is that I think summer is going to be a really interesting time, right? The R410A cutover is going to happen sometime in the summer. We don't know exactly when. And when they do, Mitsubishi is probably going to raise their prices as the dominant brand in the market. And other brands might also use this as a chance to find in the market. So to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure if I can recommend getting a heat pump during the summer, right? Not only are heat pumps going to be more expensive simply because summertime is when people are usually getting heat pumps, we have this weird equipment mix up, and I don't know how long the wait times are going to be. This might be a good time to negotiate equipment discounts. We know other contractors are trying to get into the market, and simultaneously, we know that some contractors are probably trying to offload 410A equipment. And then, of course, as we usually do, we're going to continue to do market research, publish our benchmarks, identify high quality and lean contractors, and then we're going to try to see if we can leverage bulk installation to save people even more money. Okay, let's dive in. So, avoiding the summer, this is an old slide that I gave and presented to Acton a couple of months ago, and I think it's still true. Typically, we organize a lot of our community buying campaigns, and just as a context, right? Every time that we initiate a community buying campaign, about 25 to 50 households tend to participate. That gives us a lot of negotiating power when it comes to contractors, but that's only negotiating power we have if the contractors aren't already swamped with work. Typically during the summer, we find that contractors already have so much work that they have no reason to negotiate. This is why we recommend for people to get things installed now, as well as during spring and the fall, during the shoulder seasons. Negotiating equipment discounts. What do I mean by this? So Mitsubishi, I think, as a bunch of you guys know, by far the most quoted equipment in Massachusetts. And for good reason. If you take a look at their SEER ratings and the HSPF ratings, you can see that for a lot of single family homes, they're the highest performing system out there. But other brands are catching up. And as you can see here, strategically, Daikin has acquired Abco, which includes a very big supply house over in Somerville, because they're trying to expand into parts of New England. So as other brands, I think, start making these corporate acquisition decisions to expand their distribution presence, I'm keeping an eye on that. And this is potentially a plan, an opportunity to secure lower rates with Daikin and use that as a negotiation lever against something like Mitsubishi. Let's see. All right. Let's talk about identifying good contractors. Every half year or so, we release a market report like this. It's primary research. We pay a homeowner about $2,000 to get about 20 quotes and to give us their impression of every single contractor. Now, this allows us to make an apples to apples comparison with price, because most of these people are quoting the exact same system. And this is public information. You can find it on our website. Something new that we're doing, though, this particular spring, is that we're going to try to do an interesting quality assessment. This is a house over here. This photo is from a house in Somerville that we just visited last weekend. This house most likely needs new ductwork to support a heat pump, because that is an oil furnace right there in the basement. And I believe the ductwork is too narrow. So we're going to work with a contractor with HERS rating experience, get them to tell us for sure whether they need to replace the ductwork or not. And then if they say, yes, a ductwork replacement is really needed, I'm going to get 20 contractors to look at the system, and I'm going to see who is willing to tell us the truth that, yes, you need to replace these ducts, even if you're going to pay more money. And I'm going to see which other contractors are willing to basically skimp a little bit on the assessment and just tell us, no, don't worry, just go ahead and reuse the ductwork. We're going to know which contractors are actually honest with consumers or not. And we're also going to know which one actually know how to do ductwork design. So that's sort of the work that we're doing to tease out which contractors are good and also which contractors are affordable. And I think by doing all of this, we can eventually go up to a contractor and say, hey, contractor, you passed our ductwork exam. You gave us the right answer. Well, if you want, we have 25 to 35 houses that are willing to book you out for the entire winter season. It's worth $750,000. But I'm going to need you guys to come down on price and give us a really good discount. But the good news is you guys aren't going to have to spend any money on marketing or any money on sales. Most of the time, we find that fall is a fantastic season to do this because a lot of new homeowners are doing renovations and they all just put a down payment down. So they're not exactly swimming in cash, but they do want to get rid of that oil tank in the basement. So that's how we end up with prices that look like this. And we publish all this research for free in case you want to look at it and do something similar or participate or tell people about it. It's up to you guys. I think just having transparent pricing out here is a really important thing that the market is missing. And salespeople hate it. But you know what? Consumers love it. So I feel pretty good about that. Okay, that's my short and sweet presentation over here. It's about 10 minutes, and I specifically made it short so you guys can ask questions at the end. Happy to answer anything you have.
Great. Well, Kate, if you don't mind, stop sharing so we can see everybody, and then happy to take questions. So, questions for Kit. Jean, do you have your hand up? No. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yes.
Seeing that-
Media.
Oh, I'd love to know what you did in Acton and what a community buying program involves from the community group.
For sure. First of all, sorry. I saw, I'm just seeing that somebody's recognized that it's downtown Natick. It is downtown Natick. Good eye. I took that photo during the fall because Natick is a nice place. If you want an HD photo of Natick, I'll send it to you. To answer the question, what do we expect from communities? Typically, we don't directly work with communities in the sense that we don't directly organize a bulk campaign with them, simply because I'm aware that Section 30 of the procurement law exists. And anytime a community wants to run a campaign like this, they might actually have to bid out a public RFP. That's a lot of work, and if sustainability managers don't think that's something they want to do, I respect that. So our role typically is that whenever we're running a public bulk deal, we announce it and we tell community leaders about it. And we say, if you want, you can tell people about our negotiated prices because it's a public option. And you don't even have to get a quote from whoever we're partnered with. But if your community members know that these are the prices, they can go to any other contractor and they can negotiate down those prices because they can say, hey, look, I saw Laminate Collective publish these prices for their fall bulk deal. Can you match these prices? Some contractors are willing to match prices like that. And if that's the case, you don't even need to participate formally. You can just take a look at our menu price and you can start negotiating with other contractors. I'd say that's sort of like the level of involvement we typically have with different towns. Oh, and Acton, we just gave a presentation like this one. They hosted a pizza party. 100 people showed up. Acton is great.
Okay, yeah. So Kit, there's a couple of questions in the chat, and then I'll take some more live questions. But Heat Smart Alliance, what's your relationship to the Heat Smart Alliance?
Heat Smart Alliance. We do not formally organize with Heat Smart Alliance, but we share a lot of research with them. So, for example, Heat Smart Alliance, I think, is just like a fantastic network of resources. Typically, what happens is that when we run a bulk deal, we say, we're going to go ahead and take the lead on negotiating prices with contractors. And you can use any of this, the menu, the quote, to negotiate other quotes. But when it comes time to make a decision, at this point, the collective has gotten so big that I can't individually answer all the questions. That's when I say you should talk to the heat pump coach, because they are fantastic resources and they can tell you, out of the 3 or 4 options you have, one of which is maybe ours, which one you should go with. I think the people, people in Lexington, Concord, like the longtime folks that have been working with Heat Smart people, they're so knowledgeable.
Great. Okay, and then one more question in the chat. Tom from Gloucester. Do you want to ask your question live, Tom?
Sure, that's fine. So the refrigerant changeover, can any of the old R410A equipment use any of the new refrigerants, or are they completely incompatible?
They can't. The equipment isn't compatible.
It's not. So it's just a higher pressure, different pressure or something.
Yeah, there's going to be, you can't just, yeah, I mean, if you take a 410A model on the market right now, you can't just charge R32 or 454B with it.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's for,
yeah, I'll just, the equipment is certified for a particular refrigerant.
I mean, like, yeah, I think Steve's right. I mean, can you charge the refrigerant? Like, I'm not going to stop you from charging it. Will your thing work? I can't guarantee if it's going to work very well.
Good. Okay, Karen in Acton, Karen Watkins.
So, Kit, I'm wondering, when you advertise that you're going to do a bulk deal, say, you're advertising in Cambridge, I mean, is it just different, like, random households call you and say, oh, I'm interested in getting a heat pump at this price? I mean, do people actually ever, I mean, are you guys purchasing heat pumps ever, or is it just more that people know, you've done this research and people know this is what they can ask? So are you guys a purchasing arm at all?
Previously we weren't, because we weren't big enough, but now we have enough market power to start actually striking deals directly with manufacturers.
And like, would it have to be like, say you're advertising this in Cambridge and someone in Acton hears, I mean, obviously it's a bit of a stretch for any one contractor to do 20 houses in Cambridge and 2 houses in Acton. So, I mean, is it pretty much, when you guys are acting as the purchasers, it's pretty much just a very local area?
Actually, that's not the case at all. The distributors typically have teams that will directly ship the equipment to an installation site.
Okay.
And because of that, we can actually service quite a few places. Of course, there are also other distributors out there that are beyond just the one that I talked about in Somerville. So they're kind of scattered all over the Metro West. Also, I promised Andrea that I would involve Acton in a bulk deal. So we will be choosing a contractor that can service Acton.
Thank you.
Good. Okay, Mike Roy in Vermont.
Yeah, so I think I have the same question that Lynn from Wayland has, which is, what's the business model like? Are you just doing this out of the goodness of your heart, or you presumably have to make money some way or another to keep this running? So I'm just curious how that operates. And then I guess the second part of that question is, if we wanted to import this model into rural Vermont, do you have any advice for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead. I wrote an entire article about my decision-making process on how we're going to finance this. So read that for the long version of the response. But the short version is that I have thought about this. As you know, we're not the first people to do bulk pricing at all. Solarize did this 10 years ago, right? But I think Solarize kind of fizzled out a little bit when the MassEEC funding kind of dried up. So we recognized that getting grant funding at the beginning was a good way to kickstart it, but ultimately we might need a more sustainable thing. I've thought about going the nonprofit route, getting money from Barr Foundation, Boston Foundation. Long story short, due to the specific way that Massachusetts does low-income installations, I can't really help that much there. So that's why we decided against going nonprofit. Cap agencies kind of run that show and we can't really do anything about it. We also thought about charging people for information. I'm personally not okay with that. I would much rather just go flat, transparent, 3% organizing fee. All of our research is public. To answer your second question, how do you do this in rural Vermont? Well, that's interesting. I think we do get a lot of sort of like word of mouth effects, simply because people in Cambridge kind of talk to one another, and people in Somerville too as well. One thing that might make it a little difficult is that a lot of the people who sign up tend to be people who are new homeowners, right? And they used to live in Cambridge and Somerville, and maybe their friend told them about it, specifically when they bought a new house in Malden, for example, right? I just got a new house. I hosted a housewarming. I'm telling my friend I want to get rid of this oil tank. They tell me, oh, you should check out this benchmark. Somebody posted this price list of prices online. I'm not sure how well that translates over to rural communities. The organizing experience I have in sort of like a semi-rural place that's most similar is probably my time in Marlborough. I spent about 2 months trying to organize low-income installations in Marlborough, and I personally just felt like it required a lot more of a sort of like personal, warm introduction. We ended up getting multiple warm introductions to start talking to people in a community group out there. Frankly speaking, you probably know a lot more about organizing in rural communities than I do.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
Great.
Yeah. If you ever find out, I would love to hear how your strategy is, because I actually know people in Colorado who's trying to organize in electrification campaigns in rural communities as well. And their problem is that it doesn't make sense to get a distributor to drive 30 times from Denver to, like, I don't know, someplace 2 hours away. It makes sense to basically get 30 people in a rural community signed up and then get the distributor to just send 30 units from Denver one time, one go. So if you find out more, I would love to actually talk to you more about this.
Will do.
Great. Thank you. Okay, Carrie in Natick.
Yeah, Kit, I was in the audience at the Natick Community Center last year when you gave your very enthusiastic talk there. You were fired up tonight as you were back then, but I think you, if I don't understood you correctly, my roughly 10-year-old Fujitsu heat pump with the 410A refrigerant will be no longer operational once that refrigerant expires.
Well, you can still get the refrigerant. The refrigerant will be available, but the problem is that it might just get more expensive. The thing that I would worry most about is replacement parts for the existing Fujitsu setup. The refrigerant you can replace, but the replacement parts for that particular model, that might be out of production. For Fujitsu in particular, the industry gossip is that they just got acquired by Rheem. I talked to a manufacturer representative today at the trade show. Rheem still basically allows Fujitsu to operate independently, and I think that's going to be the case for a while. But my take there is that Rheem probably just wanted to integrate their hot water heating line with Fujitsu's HVAC line a little bit more closely. Parts will be available, but ultimately, if it breaks in about 10 years, I'm not 100%.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael in Sherburne.
Hi, maybe I missed something in how it all works. If I'm thinking of a well-to-do suburb with large houses, where the design issues are fairly not maybe a little bit complicated in terms of doing even the calcs for what the capacities are, and they've done all the efficiency stuff. When you're going out, sort of curious as to how many houses do you need or willing households to make a group, whether it's at least 20 or something, as you say, and plus, how does it work? Like you're negotiating equipment stuff, and I'm not clear how you're negotiating the whole installation and the sizing and the design aspects, and what a household's left with there in terms of figuring that out.
Yeah, I can dive a little bit deeper into here. So it's a little bit different between, triple deckers and like single family homes, for example, right? Particularly with Cape houses. Because I feel like Cape houses are just like single family, like triple deckers are easy to sort of like standardize the pricing with when we're negotiating with contractors. Because once the first ever research project we did was getting a bunch of prices for my downstairs neighbor, and we're in a Cambridge 3 unit, right? And it's pretty simple because everybody quotes the same thing. They see that you have 2 bedrooms and a living room, kitchen. All right, that's 3 deckless mini splits. So for triple deckers, I feel like it's pretty easy. For single family colonials, I feel like that's also relatively easy. We didn't have information on that, but that's because but then my friend Amy moved from Cambridge to Malden she moved into such a house. And then I was like, Amy, let me get 20 quotes for your house. And she was like, great, I was going to get quotes anyways. So based on that, we sort of figured out that a lot of people in single family colonial households tend to get the ducted upstairs set up, where they have 3 bedrooms upstairs or 4 bedrooms upstairs, and you just simply have an air handler in the attic, and you connect all of them to an air handler via ductwork. And then on the living room, kitchen on the first floor, you get 2 ductless main splits. So single family homes, when they're colonial and have an empty attic, that is also relatively easy to price. Capes. Capes are hard. You don't have a lot of attic space to work with. If people want ducting, it's tough. Rooms are also small, which means that if you're thinking about mini splits, you run the risk of oversizing. I think capes are probably the most difficult situation for us to actually nail down our price with. But in terms of all those other situations that I just talked about, triple deckers, colonial houses, when it comes to those, so we've gotten to the point where we know enough about contractor margins at these bulk deals, and we can basically backtrack from the equipment pricing to what ultimately what the entire proposal should probably roughly be priced at.
Well, I'm thinking of larger houses than just even the standard colonials. Let's say out where I live, it's
oh man,
you're dealing with fairly larger homes. Let's say 3,000-4,000 square feet.
Oh
And
man, yeah. I mean, once you get to that point,
that's
yeah,
how I'm trying to figure out how this works. How this works in terms of getting people together, and whether you're just negotiating an equipment issue, and how do you do the design and work with each person, and whether this is a workable scheme for that.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I definitely think you'll have negotiating leverage, because I think the leverage is much more about the dollar amount at the end of the day than it is about how many units you have. But getting that standardized benchmark is going to be hard when you're talking about 3,000-foot houses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't have a great answer for that yet.
Okay.
I'll think about it though.
I'll think about it and talk to you another time.
Good. Okay, Tom in Gloucester.
Thanks. So have you looked at all at some of the new window heat pumps, the saddlebag designs with a compressor on the outside and the head on the inside?
Yeah, the ones that like hang over the window, right?
Exactly. Yep. Like
Yeah.
medieval
Yeah, absolutely. I lived in New York for 5 years, so I know the exact situation they're designing for. Right? It's like a 5th story of a walk-up, where realistically, it's going to be a hassle if you want to mount anything on the exterior wall. It's 5 floors up, so you can't really reach the 5th floor from the ground. And everybody in New York has a standard window anyway, so you kind of just hang over the gradient heat pump. Fantastic product, I think, for New York. The problems, there's 2 problems. One of them is not about to not be a problem. The cold climate models aren't out yet. I think Gradient is now finally rolling out the cold climate model. So I don't think this is going to be a problem in the future. The second problem is that I've noticed that in Massachusetts, a lot of, if we're thinking multifamily, right, which is the other sweet spot of these window units, the problem is that we've been to taken a look at 2 different multifamily complexes. One is Melrose Towers, condos over in Melrose, and the other one is Northview condos over next to Davis Square. And in both cases, the windows are not rectangular like this, where you kind of pull it up. The windows are sort of like the slide open balcony doors. And if it's a slide open balcony door, or if it's just like a slide to the side window, it doesn't work, because the window heat pumps are meant for windows that slide up and down. You put the thing down and then you close the window on top of it. So I think there are some design issues that make it a little bit difficult to translate to Massachusetts.
Yeah, I was just thinking about a hybrid solution where you maybe use the window heat pumps upstairs in a cape, and you run ducting or mini splits through the basement ceiling or something like that.
That's a really interesting idea. I'm going to write that down. That is actually a really interesting idea. I'm going to note
it. Good.
Yeah.
Okay, Steve Cowell.
Hi. I just have a question, which is, Kit, and for everyone, the importance and to what extent are you including the issue of how efficient the home is. Have they gotten a mass save audit? Have they upgraded their efficiency to address the effectiveness of the heat pump and the sizing, etc.? And that is something that is the central piece that I've been working on for, 40 years.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference. Over in Marlboro, I was so the community over in Marlboro is a bunch of mobile homes, and the difference between mobile homes from the 70s versus the ones that you can get like 10 years ago, holy smokes, just such a huge difference when it comes to modern installation standards. When it comes to the people that we work with and the bulk deals that we participate in, frankly speaking, 100% of people get mass save installation. There is nobody that I know of out of the hundreds of people that have signed up to our research newsletters who has gotten a heat pump without getting the installation work done with mass save.
Okay, so basically you just make sure that if they haven't, you talk to them about it and inform them about the mass save, because the new mass save 3-year plan, which should be approved within the next week or two, it has got substantially expanded improvement and linking efficiency and heat pumps as a critical component. So I think it would be really important for everyone in Energize team to really bring in information on the new 3-year plan, which substantially increases support, etc., for electrification and heat pumps, etc.
Steve, this might be something where I want to lean on your expertise. For the changes in this new plan, do we expect the R value of the installation to be higher? Do we expect the monetary support to be greater? Or do we expect, standards for participating installation contractors to be higher than before?
I could talk for about an hour. I don't think I have an hour. Look, there's a lot of pieces that you ought to do. It includes increasing the incentive. It includes having an extra incentive if you need to insulate your home and get a heat pump. There's an extra, funding for that. So it really is something that you got to look deeply into the 350-page document, which is right now at the review by the DPU, which we hope will be approved within the next week or so. They have to do it by the end of February, which is coming up. Yeah. So I just think that it's important across the board throughout, the team here to really get the help and assistance from Mass Save on the new 3-year plan and how your education and outreach can better utilize the expanded. It's good. Look, it's going to be $1.7 billion a year in increased incentives, including focus on low income, etc. So the world's going to change, and your issues with heat pumps are absolutely wonderful in terms of it's not an easy check the box. It depends on what it is and where it is and what does it need and is it ducted, is it not ducted, etc. So.
Yeah. Nathan, I found your next presenter.
Yes, indeed. Great. Okay, we're going to take one last question, or maybe another one before we move on to kind of some more. We do have another speaker who's going to be sharing a little bit, but Susan Hogue in Cape Ann.
Hi, I was wondering if you have any concerns about the quality of weatherization that Mass Save is doing. They don't tend to do. We have not found that they've done a really qualitative job. They don't do infrared. They don't do blow a door. They just sort of wing it. And is that going to be okay across the line as we go forward?
This is a totally valid. Steve's got the right answer over here. Like anecdotally, we have heard that depending on who your HPC is, the weatherization could be really hit or miss. I've seen houses of people who have participated in our group deals where, frankly speaking, the weatherization contractor comes in, does kind of a slapdash job, and they don't even finish the wall when they put the part of the wall back in. And Steve, I mean, do you guys, I don't know if you guys have done a little bit more work on assessing the quality of every single HPC, but
Well,
I
we're
don't know if I
concerned.
want to name names here, but I do know that some HPCs are a little more focused on just churning jobs out. Others are a little more focused on getting the job done with local contractors.
Well, we've been doing some, Tom has been doing some work with an infrared. People don't seem to, neither the provider, mass save provider person or the cap agencies, they don't seem to do a lot. And so we're wondering if these people live in older houses where there are a lot of cracks and pipes sticking up, what's going to happen? Why can't we get better insulation and all that stuff?
That's very disappointing. Let me just say, there should be a blower door test. There should be it done properly. If this is not happening, I would, if you're on the Cape, I'd call Maggie. And
This has never happened. I've been working with it for 3 years and it hasn't happened with the cap agencies nor I don't know, we have Homeworks in this area, the provider that, and they just don't do it. I mean, Homeworks digs a hole like a foot or two up the side of the wall in 2 rooms. And if they hit insulation, fine, you're done. That's it. You're okay.
All right, that's very disappointing.
Yeah.
I work with Homeworks. I work with all the cap agencies in the state, and I've worked very closely with Mass Save for 40 years, and they should be doing this properly. I'm very disappointing that you.
Well, Steve, what can we do about it? Because we can back this up with facts. We've had different people do it. Tom is here on. This is a fact. This is a concern. It's very bad. So where do we go with it?
I would suggest if you could write up some information on that and send it to me. And I will try to deal with it. It's very disappointing. I mean, it should be done right. This is an issue that I care deeply about, and I'm working with all the cap agencies and all the program administrators at Mass.
You mean that you haven't heard that before? Excuse me. Do you mean that you haven't heard that before?
Well, certainly there are times when jobs aren't done properly. You're absolutely right. But it should be very rare, and there should be a way to call and get it fixed and respond to it. So if that is happening, I'd be surprised. I would be, quite frankly. I'm very disappointed if this is happening. If you could write up any examples and send them to me, I can follow through and see if I could figure out what's going wrong.
Thank you. We'll do that. Thank
Susan,
you.
Do you want my controversial take on this?
Yep.
Oh boy, sometimes I like to keep it spicy. My controversial take is that you should get a bunch of examples, and if you really want to, submit it to Commonwealth Beacon. They'll publish it as an op-ed. Legislators will read it. They'll freak out a little bit. Pressure DPU. And then ultimately, the PAs are very sensitive. The program administrators, National Grid, Eversource, my impression is that they are very sensitive to people complaining about the program if it somehow threatens the DPU approval process.
Look, anything that's going wrong is a problem. I complain about it too. So look, I work with National Grid and Eversource and Cape Light Compact on a regular basis, and with all the cap agencies, with LEAN, the Low Income Energy Affordability Network. So if there are issues, please let me know, and I'll try to, move the needle if there's a problem.
Is this something that can be amplified by MassEnergize? But either way, Susan,
absolutely, MassEnergize.
Yeah.
If in any communities you're working, if this issue comes up, that the installers, the HPCs, are not adequately providing the analysis of the level of insulation, the air leakage, etc., let me know, and let them know. But I'm happy to be a pain in the butt.
What have you been expecting that they do? I mean, they go around windows and doors. They do that, and then they they don't do anything else for
So,
installation.
you know, so actually this is I think a very useful conversation, but we do need to kind of wrap up and
Yes,
move
yes.
on. So
Yes, let's follow
Susan,
up. Let's
I
follow up
suggest
on
you
this.
be in touch with Steve. And do let us know if there's a role that we can play. But I think this is important to be aware of, but let's yeah, we are going to need to move on. So
Okay.
Sorry.
but thank you. Thank you. And thank you, Steve, for your offer to be an advocate. That's very useful. So okay, well, we do have one other speaker who has agreed to kind of share a little bit of what's going on in Natick. And then obviously at the end of that, I do want to also offer some general time for other communities to share what's going on, ask questions, look for support, etc. But Carrie Buttfield in Natick is going to share a little bit about the repair cafes that they've been doing.
Indeed. Before I do that, just give you a little background information about me for what it's worth. I've been sort of fighting the good fight for quite a few years now. I was a founding member and later chair. I'm reading off some notes here. Later chair of the Boston Recycling Coalition, a grassroots organization that brought, after nearly 5 years struggle, full curbside recycling to all Boston residents. I was 11 when I joined that group. Later, after moving to Natick, got involved with Natick's Earth Day Festival and Keep Natick Beautiful. And then with the help of Debbie Marion, who's here someplace, and others, we founded a group called Renewable Natick, which exactly 8 months after our kickoff meeting, we had fall town meeting 2018, and they passed a resolution that we drafted to move Natick to 100% renewable energy. So we did a lot in 8 months, and Debbie and many other people were involved in that whole endeavor. In between, I can't remember where I got involved in repair cafes, kind of accidentally in Framingham. I got an email that there was going to be some sort of sustainable movie that was going to be shown by Transition Framingham. So I said, sure, I'll go to it. After the movie, and I don't remember exactly what it was about, they had some breakout sessions, and one of the fellows held up a big wrench and said, who likes to fix things? So I said, well, I became sort of a do-it-yourselfer accidentally. After buying a 1870 diamond in the rough 2-family house here in Natick, did extensive work to it, mostly trial by error. And I was invited to be part of this group to start, repair cafes in Framingham. So after many, many meetings of kind of getting things sorted out, just what was required to have liability insurance, find a location, find volunteers, most importantly, to fix things, many other things. I became a lamp fixer there, which I had no previous experience with. So anybody can do one of these things. After about 4 or 5 of those, I said, I think we need to have one of these in Natick. So I started shaking the bushes a little bit and got a small coalition of people. And one thing I did do is I can start maybe Joe can help me get this thing going. I'm going to share my slide thing here. Help me out here, screens. Or Nathan, you kind of help me. Maybe.
Yeah, so you're looking for the green share arrow down on the bottom of your screen, bottom center.
There we go. Okay.
And then click on once it's open, it should start right up.
We went through this before as a trial and error.
There you go. Yep, there you go. Okay, so now you're on, I think you're on I'm not sure if it's the first or the second slide, but you're partway in.
Let's go back to the first slide here. Okay, let's see if I can move this. Your screen sharing. Are you screen sharing showing up there? Or is it just on my screen?
Yeah, no, we can see it all right.
I've got the screen box that's superimposed on it. Maybe it's just on my screen. So essentially, we throw away vast amounts of stuff, even things with almost nothing wrong with them, and which could get a new lease on life after a simple repair. The trouble is, lots of people have forgotten that they can repair things themselves, or they no longer know how. Knowing how to make repairs is a skill that is quickly lost. Society doesn't always show much appreciation for people who still have this practical knowledge. And against their will, they're often left standing on the sidelines. Their skills are rarely used. So
Kit, do you want if you want to just make sure you're advancing your slides? Sorry, Carrie, I meant. I'm sorry. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Was trying to use my down arrow, but that didn't seem to do it. So as a result, all sorts of things get tossed out. Things like electronics and appliances, all sorts of table and floor lamps, different pieces of furniture and other home goods that very well could be repaired. Then there's bicycles, scooters, and other kids' toys of that nature, as you'll see in an upcoming slide. Then there's no end to the different types of clothing. Bear with me here. Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
But there's no end to the different types of clothing and other apparel that is tossed or donated to some sort of homeless shelter or nonprofit organization. As benevolent as that sounds, many of these articles of clothing that might have a great deal of sentimental value need nothing more than a new button sewn or on them or a little stitching, whether it be hand stitching or machine sewing. Then there's all sorts of knives or garden tools that get tossed out. Well, they don't necessarily get tossed out, but possibly might be replaced when all they need is to have their blades sharpened. So, to that end, we shout from the rooftops, toss it out? No way. Instead, how about a repair cafe? And I like to add here that leave it to a woman to come up with an idea to fix things. Martine Postum came up with this idea to fix all kinds of broken things instead of tossing them away. The Repair Cafe was initiated by Martine in the Netherlands back in since 2007. She has been striving for sustainability at a local level in many ways, as a journalist, publicist, local politician, entrepreneur, citizen, and consumer. Her special focus has always been to decrease the amount of stuff we produce as a society. And under Martine's leadership, the first Repair Cafe was held in October 2009 in Amsterdam. Martine organized this, initially a one-time meeting in cooperation with the Municipal Society of Amsterdam. That very first Repair Cafe was so successful that she continued the endeavor, and in 2010, she organized several more Repair Cafe meetings at different locations in Amsterdam. This caught the attention of more and more people and the media all over the country, and that is why she decided to establish the Repair Cafe Foundation, with the idea that it would give the Repair Cafe a footing all over the Netherlands and beyond. This project has led to the Repair Cafes being organized in many hundreds of different places all over the world, and that number is only growing. So, how did I get involved? Well, serendipity, as I mentioned, I received an email about this event that was taking place, and after volunteering in Framingham for several years of these, I began the process of trying to organize one in Natick. One of the things I had to do, excuse me, was to buy a manual from the Repair Cafe Foundation. It cost €49, which today I think is about $50.38. There's a whole table of contents, which has a step-by-step plan of just what you need to do. In addition to that, of course, we needed to find a location to stage such an event. And Kit was at the Natick Community Senior Center, as I say, late last year to give a presentation. And that, as he can attest to, is a perfect location for an event like this. I'm going to show you a couple of different of the slides. They kind of led to this whole thing. And I should have started with this one. This is our registration table, the first one we held back on April 29th, 2023. There's a pretty good line of people waiting to get in. I'm going to show you a couple shots of inside the room as we're kind of getting things still organized. It's always a little chaotic at the beginning as people are figuring out where to take their different items for repair. There's a couple of people working on some lamps there and other appliances. A little close up of more things we got going on here. More stuff going on, and you can probably see not only do we do things indoors, outside. You might notice, if I can see here, a bicycle outdoors. We do bike repairs whenever possible. And here's a few more things. I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. Here was the shot with another person working on a clock, antique clock there. And outside the window, there's the bike repair that's taking place. We get a little bit of everything that we can do here. There's another shot outside of the bike repair and some more electronic repairs taking place. There's a lot of different things that they'll attempt to fix. And our message is that we don't guarantee we can fix everything, but we will give it our best effort. And we have a lot of talented people who have come in time after time, and I've done 5 of these so far. And here's more stuff we do with sewing. So I mentioned all this stuff that gets, discarded or donated places. These people are more than willing to come in and kind of stitch up some holes in a shirt or a sweater or do some machine sewing for you. They have no limit to the talents that they have. And there's some jewelry repair people as well, which is kind of fun. We'll get parents who'll come in with a lot of different kids' jewelry that needs some help. And, rather than toss it, there you go. They've got a fine new piece of jewelry. One last thing we do a lot of is some different types of furniture and wood repair. You can see one of our longtime fellows, Henry, who does a lot of work for us. And I didn't want to get too involved in the different slides, but I just want to give you a little sampling of the different stuff that we strive to try and repair, and I guess open it up for discussions.
Great. Well, thank you, Carrie. And if you don't mind just stopping sharing the screen so we can see people as they, yeah, you can just kind of stop sharing. If you go down to the bottom and you should see a button that says stop share. No, not up on the right, just down, it should be down at the bottom someplace.
And it's not here yet, but bear with me, we'll find it. Maybe because my slides are fairly large. Bear with me.
Mouse around, I find that sometimes it is hidden.
It's
Nathan, whoever the host is, can terminate the sharing.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, no, I was just trying. Okay, so okay, great. Well, thank you, Carrie, for sharing a little bit about the repair cafes in Natick. Questions or comments for Carrie?
I have a question.
Yes, Catherine White.
Thank you. We, at the invitation of Westwood, and one of my Westwood colleagues is on here, they invited Medfield to do a repair cafe, which was their 3rd, and we are planning the first one in Medfield in May, and are getting excited and finding the right space and everything. I guess part of my question would be, how did you specifically recruit people like jewelry repair, people with different talents? And if so, how did you find them?
Just a lot of word of mouth from people I talked to, and there were some people from the framing organization that were willing to help me out here, since I had sort of helped them out for 3 or 4 cafes with them. It was a lot of just word of mouth and hanging some flyers around town just to see if anyone was interested in signing up. have a pretty good network of people through my environmental work here in town, and sent out a lot of emails to people and see if any of them had any talents in fixing things or if they knew somebody. So, bit by bit, we got enough people to pretty much cover all those different areas that I spoke of. Wasn't something that happened overnight, but it happened. One thing you probably have to look into is, and this was an absolute, at least because we were holding this at a municipal building, is liability insurance. It's like what they call, commonly known as slip and fall, if somebody was to injure themselves. And we went through Natick Rotary, and under their general liability policy, we were able to, cover ourselves, so to speak. If something, God forbid, if somebody fixed a lamp like me and the person took it home, plugged it in the wall and started a house fire, obviously that wouldn't be a good thing. So that liability policy would sort of, cover yourselves in that respect. So definitely look into that.
Great, thank you. Lynn.
Yes, hi. So is the repairs done just right then and there and just that day? Because I know often you need pots when you have to repair something, and do you have the
Yep. Yeah. That's a great question.
pots in the background?
Yeah. On the flyer, and we announce these, we say, I think it has a little comment says, if your repair requires special parts, please bring them with you. Things like lamps, we always have plenty of sockets and wire and miscellaneous things of that nature. We don't have everything, but if it's kind of an unusual type of repair, again, we just ask people to bring some parts with them that they might have. Some of the guys that do a lot of these electronic repair have all sorts of, I'm not a appliance guy, all the different parts and components that you could almost think of. So there's seldom a time when they're not stumped by something. They can typically fix anything.
And all that day at that event?
Yeah, that's correct. It's just a one-day event, usually 3 or 4 hours. And it's not a continuous thing. We've tried to do it in conjunction with Framingham. We were holding one roughly every 2 months, just alternating back and forth. That worked out fairly well for some people, except we ended up with one in April, and then 4 months later it was August, which was a tough time to find people, and a lot of families were on vacation. And then 4 months after that was right after Thanksgiving and before Christmas, so it didn't work out quite so well, but pretty good turnout. We usually got about 75, 80 people or so that come through with things to repair. We waited until the following April when Natick has this thing called Earth Day all around Natick, which Debbie has been very involved in getting going in Eco Natick. And the 2-day event there where they stage different types of events all over town, not just on the common. But even though it's a 2-day event, Natick all around, or Earth Day all around Natick, it is only one day that we hold it then. I don't want to overtax the volunteers.
I think it might be an interesting model for companies to do for Earth Month, to propose the repair, especially companies. My company happens to be high tech, so there are definitely like engineers there that are very handy, and but there are also all sorts of people at the company that are not so handy. So it might be an interesting thought to bring it back to those of people who are at work and consider something like that for an Earth Month activity.
Yeah. You're in Wayland, it looks like.
Yeah, I'm in Wayland.
Yeah.
It was, oh no, it was a fellow in Sudbury who did one, kind of a small event. He was trying to pull it together in a short period of time. I was a volunteer for that one too. But if you did, repaircafe.org, you could probably find a good amount of information. But I think you might be onto, having a good nucleus of people that might be able to fix a bunch of different things. And I'll bet that a lot of those engineers and such would know other people that probably are good at handyman work.
Can you put your email in the chat? That'd be great too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we do have Carrie, we have a question from Jean. Have you ever combined a repair cafe with Heat Smart or another form of energy coaching outreach?
No, but if Kit's available sometime. No, I have not. Usually I think on this Earth Day all around Natick, I remember there was a presentation about heat pumps. It was taking place in someone's house. let's see. It might kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Dilute the effort, I guess, a little bit in terms of this repair cafe. It might get a little bit too broad in terms of the scope that we're having, so we kind of keep it narrow.
Okay, and then Carrie, another question from the chat: Who holds the insurance policy? When you said you found out you could find to get that liability insurance, who's that through, or who holds it?
Yeah, the Natick Rotary, which I'm also a member of, they are part of Natick International, and they have a general liability insurance policy. When we promote the event and as part of the write-up for the Natick Community Senior Center, which is a municipal building, we have to say sponsored by the Natick Rotary Association in conjunction with Natick Community Senior Center, and then a specific department within that, which allows us to actually stage the event free of charge, which is a a huge bonus. Otherwise, we would not be able to hold these because the rental space would be enormous.
Yeah. Okay, good. Mary in Andover.
I love this. Andover Senior Center has a Fix-It clinic and a Mend It shop. They do it twice a month, so people know when to, it goes out in all their information. But we're going to piggyback on the Fix-It clinic because it's been so successful, and we're going to be having a table where residents can bring their electric bills, so that we can help them figure out how to get onto, if they have a third-party supplier, learn what that means. And we have Andover Community Power, which is our community choice aggregation program. So a lot of residents are confused about that. And plus, we want to get people to opt up to 100% green. So we're going to test it out beginning in March, having a table there and just being there consistently to see if we can to get that valuable piece of the community that we don't often reach. So
That's terrific. The first part about the the aggregation program, with Debbie's help and with other people, when we got Renewable Natick going, we work with the Sustainability Committee, and they have different options for electricity here, Class 1 renewables, and then people who it's a few more cents per kilowatt hours. Those who can't afford it just go to the regular basic brown program, but you can opt up to 100% renewable, which I have. In terms of the Fix-It clinics, they're similar, but if my understanding, maybe you know more about this, is that the people who volunteer to fix things try and engage the people who bring the products in to sort of teach them how to fix it under their sort of tutelage, if you will. So I think those are a little bit different. I've never been involved with a Fix-It clinic, but one of the fellows who's worked for me has actually been in some of the slides, had done a Fix-It clinic at the library a couple of times years ago. Do you know much more about the Fix-It clinics?
Well, this one was I don't know that it was started on the model of the Fix-It clinic, if you were to Google Fix-It clinics, but it was a group of retirees at the senior center who said, we're just sitting around drinking coffee. Let's do something. We all have these talents. So that's how it got started. What was your question? So I don't know how and somebody else had the question of, well, how do you do it in one day? The way they have it modeled out, you bring in your lamp, you bring in your chair, and you come back a week later.
Okay.
They, that's how they do it.
It's a very different model, but I think that sounds like it's maybe better suited for some retirees who, don't have much to do during the week and kind of take a lamp or a table or whatever it is back to their own, workshop at home and work on it, whatever. Where's the, yeah.
Okay, I think this will be our last question. Denise in Northampton.
Well, good, because it's not really a question, it's just a thank you, because the ideas about doing tabling for electric bills or, CCA ups or whatever, is a great one to do at the same time. And just one thing, so here in Northampton, we have I forget what we call it, but it's a repair clinic that happens like twice a year. But then we also twice a month have an exchange at the landfill. So basically, you bring whatever you want, and the agreement is that if somebody wants it, it's theirs. And you're able to take anything that you find that you want. And so it's amazing, you know, most of the stuff disappears and people who didn't want it anymore have somebody else who now want it. And it keeps a lot of the stuff out of the landfill. And of course, you know, once it's over, it's all in the landfill, but
No.
most of it disappears.
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea. And with a little more, planning, I could probably, add that to, if I can get the word out to a lot of people, just see if you got some miscellaneous things of value that you don't want, bring them in, and maybe somebody else will. One man's trash is another person's treasure, as they say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Carrie. And we just have we have about just 10 minutes left. So I do want to just give other people an opportunity to share an update, share a question. If you've got something going on in your community you want to let us know about, or if you've got a question for another community or just looking for help, this would be a great time to just have some open-ended sharing. So.
Oh, raising my hand.
Sure, Kit.
Oh, I was just gonna go ahead and say, great presentation, Carrie. I was also, oh, there you go. Gianna just answered my thing. All your talk about, fixing and repurposing old items makes me think, in Cambridge, a lot of stuff gets left out on the side of the street in May because all the students move out. And it's like known that people like go around and like May scouting for things. It makes me think about the potential to actually fix a bunch of those things. And if Cambridge had a model like this, should we just have it in May?
I used to live in Alston, Brighton for a long time, and near BU and BC, right down the street from BC, and I would see stuff, out all the time. You're right.
Oh, yep. So you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Probably picked up a few things that I still own.
Okay, Mary, are you going to share something about
abilities for the slides getting them through?
Yeah, so I'm back again. So Andover is going to be hosting a climate change makers forum for not only sustainability directors from towns in the region, but also for like-minded cohorts like Andover We Can, like Lex Can, all of you, I've been, you're all part of climate groups. And there's going to be, there's basically it's going to happen in May, and I know it's coming right after the MassEnergize conference, but this will be a very focused how-to on electrification campaigns and schools and engaging youth. Anyway, I can send out more information at some point, but I just wanted to mention that because it's really people that are working in the community, bringing your best, what's worked and what, we're all trying to figure it out. How are we going to leverage the campaigns that we're working on to really scale things up?
Sure, sure. Great. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mary. Thanks for letting us know. Okay, other communities, updates or questions, requests for input? Rob or Florence, do you want to tell us what's going on in Ashland?
No, I think we're just following the cohort right now. We're working on our presentations, working on some events for the summer. Nothing concrete and especially indifferent and exciting, probably pretty much following what many other towns are doing. We're learning a lot from these presentations, and I think hopefully we get enough volunteers to help us out to do some of these things.
Great. Okay, does anybody else have anything they want to share? All right. Well, we're almost out of time. But what we like to do is end the call with kind of requests for topics. Actually, it was at last month's meeting that somebody spoke about repair cafes, and they wanted to kind of know how. And so Carrie joined us tonight. Do you have topics that you'd like to see addressed, or topics that you'd like to offer to do some more sharing about? Yes, Karen. Karen Watkins.
What Steve was saying about the Mass Save new 3-year plan, which isn't totally finalized yet, but it would be really helpful to have an overview of that.
Great. Okay, and we're going to take note of some of these suggestions, so that's good. Yeah, thanks, Karen. Yes, Mike.
So we built a website using the MassEnergize platform, and then we have a whole program where we go door to door talking to people and holding events, and we are still wrestling with how to connect these two in a more seamless and integrated fashion. So it'd be interesting just to hear from others about how they marry the work that they're doing online with the work that they're doing in person.
Okay. So connecting the platform with the in-person work. Yes, that is an ongoing challenge, and I'm sure some communities would be happy to share about that. Yeah. Okay, Tiana, do you have a question or something you'd like to
Yeah,
to
I mean,
suggest?
to the extent that anyone has a crystal ball, do we know anything about what tax rebates and other incentives are going to look like in the future? Like, we feel a little stuck on advocating for particular things given the sort of unknowns of what will or will not still be honored as far as tax incentives, certainly at the federal level, but even at the state level.
Yeah.
Again, maybe not a knowable thing right now, but I'd even just be interested to hear, how other folks are approaching that level of uncertainty.
Yeah, thank you, Tiana. I think that is on many, many people's minds. So I do think we are planning at the conference, at the MassEnergize conference, to have some discussion about that, but the particulars, I mean, of those incentives and rebates and that sort of thing, that would certainly be a good topic for a future community of practice. So yeah, thanks for that suggestion. Yeah, Lynn. Lynn, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So one suggestion was to hear what everyone's planning for Earth Month or Earth Week, and would like to hear what some of the ideas out there that the different towns and different organizations are planning. I think they might give us some good ideas. I think next month would obviously be the best month to have that discussion, since that would be just a month before Earth Month or Earth Week.
Sure. Okay, good. Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. Okay, well, these are great, good topics, good good food for thought as we plan, kind of our season of upcoming topics for the community of practice. Well, thank you all very much for joining us tonight. It's been a great set of presentations and conversations, and thank you for taking the time to join us. Carrie, do you want to say something before we leave?
I was just going to say I'd be remiss if I didn't invite anybody who's out there on this call, if they had an interest in some skills in any kind of repairs of sorts. I've got the email address in the chat there. If anyone's interested, possibly planning the next Repair Cafe Sunday, May 4th here in Natick. If you have any interest in not just possibly helping out, but maybe just bringing some things in that might need a repair, shoot me an email, and we'll see if we can maybe further the effort, and maybe I can give some assistance to somebody else who's looking to do a repair cafe in another community.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Carrie, for your generosity of time and resources. So, okay, well, everybody, thank you. Good night to you, and hope we'll see you at the next Community of Practice. So these resources that were shared tonight will be shared, and so look for those within the next week or so.